Hello, welcome. Welcome to the Educator's Edge. Now, the goal of this podcast is to help you teach smarter, lead brighter, and grow stronger. My name's Lisa Ellem. Oh, I'm just trying to figure out what to do with my glasses. I'm your go-to guide, your learning bestie, here to bring you information, strategies, techniques about the art and the science of adult education in a way that's practical, that's insightful, that's empowering. So whether you're building your teaching business, whether you want to boost your confidence or master the craft, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So my research interest is in adults who learn. And I've found that joy was an adult learning need and it's part of this matrix of needs. So I love it when I find other experts that have found the same thing. You know, it means that my research is worthy and that it is, an essential meaning that I've discovered. Now, it becomes especially pertinent, especially exciting when that other person is a neuroscientist. So today I want to talk about the 5 V's and Dr. Judith Joseph. So I've called this podcast the 5 V's of Thriving in Adult Learning, a science-backed guide to success. So if the secret to thriving as an adult learner wasn't just about studying hard, but it was about understanding their brain and the science of happiness and that link to change, wouldn't that be profound? Interesting. So I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast. If you are not a subscriber, please subscribe. She has some incredible guests and has some really useful knowledge to share. So she was interviewing Dr. Judith Joseph, who's a double board certified psychiatrist and happiness researcher. And she has introduced the 5V framework. And it's, once again, it's research. It's a research-backed approach to living a more energized, joyful, and fulfilling life. Now, as an adult learning researcher, these learning needs that I've found, like managing change, self-awareness, having a community, and experiencing joy, were so overwhelming in my research that it kind of floored me, because I did my research during COVID at a time where everything had to be turned online quite quickly. So it was surprising because we'd gone from face-to-face teaching to being able to navigate online learning, which is very different for the teacher as well as for the learner. Yeah. So when we look through the lens of the 5 V's that Dr. Joseph calls them, we gain this powerful blueprint, this powerful understanding for helping adult learners succeed, not just academically, but in life. So what are the 5 V's? We've got validation, venting, values, vitals, and vision. All right. So once again, it's simple, and the simplicity makes it beautiful, I think. All right, so validation. So this is the first step to gaining confidence and managing change. You know, we need to be self-aware and we need to be connected in a community of learners. We can't get validation. We can have internal validation, but external validation is quite valuable as well. So I guess the self-awareness gives us that internal validation, and having a community who is aligning with our thinking gives us that external validation. So many adult learners question whether they belong in the classroom, especially if they haven't studied for a while. They might be struggling with imposter syndrome or self-doubt. Now, Dr. Joseph highlights that validation, both internal and external, is crucial for our happiness, which is interesting, isn't it? Because we've always said that happiness is an internal process. In learning, validation comes from recognizing our previous experiences, our strengths, and our unique perspectives. And, as educators, how do we create these environments that reinforce the learner's worthiness? Well, I guess it's by acknowledging life and work experience and understanding that adult learners come to class with knowledge. Yeah. And this knowledge is a valuable asset in their learning. Additionally, too, I think encouraging self-reflection. Self-reflection is such a powerful learning tool. When we can help learners to see their own growth and to, sort of map where they've come from and where they are at the moment. And building a supportive network of peers where learners validate and uplift each other. In my research, I found that it was the learner-learner relationship was actually more important than that learner-teacher relationship. So the relationships that the learners had with other learners was really pivotal to their support, to their success and their joy. So when the learners feel seen and valued and can see and validate themselves in their feelings about their learning, they're more likely to embrace the change that's required for learning and persist through the challenges. And I think they're really important points. So, yeah, having that validation, the internal and the external validation, is really important. Venting. How cool is this? So that's releasing the pressure, turning the lid on the pressure cooker and letting that steam go. So once again, what's the connection? It's managing change and being in community, being able to balance work and study and life can be overwhelming. And I think as educators, it's important to acknowledge the overwhelm of the learners. And as a teacher, you've been in the learning experience, so we understand how overwhelming this experience can be. Without this healthy outlet, stress builds up and leads to burnout, withdrawal. Dr. Joseph's research shows that venting in a safe and structured way is essential. It's not just, you do better if you can. It is actually essential for our emotional well-being. And adults learn better when we are emotionally balanced. So I remember one of my research participants had this powerful insight about this water cooler, the role of the water cooler in her learning. And she described that, when she was in class, she'd be watching or just observing other learners. And if they had interesting questions or a different perspective, she would want to talk to them later. And she found that being able to have a incidental sort of conversation, it really helped her learning. She called it the water cooler conversations. She describes it as, during these breaks, the learners would open up about what they didn't understand. So you're standing at the water cooler and, you sort of say, oh God, I didn't understand what the teacher was saying. She was really on a bit of a rant and I think she lost it. I don't understand what she meant by A, B, or C. But being out of the formal environment of the classroom, but still within the formal environment of the school, within the relationships with other learners, the other learner might say, yeah, I thought that too, but then I thought about it and I understood that what she meant was A, B, C, and D. So it's being able to sort of say, to let go of what she should be feeling, should be thinking, should be experiencing, to have that vulnerable conversation. And I say vulnerable because it's acknowledging that you don't know something. So you've got to be vulnerable enough to, to sort of say, I don't get it. And, at the water cooler in that casual way, then it was safe to have that conversation. So these moments of vulnerability, allowing the peer to explain, could suddenly cement concepts, leading to those moments. Yeah. So simply sharing that you're struggling with something as an adult learner can, relieve some of the stress that you feel. It can create connection and create joy through that connection and strengthen that community for learners, which is it is an essential part of adult learners. And it reinforced that not knowing is natural and normal. Like this is how we learn, by coming from a place of not learning. And it's something that many adult teachers struggle to teach, but also struggle to accept. Yeah. So educators and learning environments, how do we foster this? We foster this by encouraging those informal spaces for discussion, those spaces where the educator is not present. We encourage the creation of a learning community. Yeah. And this can happen on an online forum too. Like I am a great believer in Facebook groups or Facebook chats for adult learners. Obviously, at times there needs to be a reminder that, it is a professional connection, whatever. It's supposed to be positive. There might be some rules around that, especially if there's been some issues previously. But and I guess the biggest reminder is that whatever you've written down will always be written down. But we need to encourage these informal spaces for discussion. We need to normalize struggle. We need to normalize that not knowing is normal, and that peer learning is as valuable as sitting in a lecture at times. So it's also that peer learning. We need to normalize that and acknowledge that as a valuable part of the learning process for adults. And we need to build structure, structured moments of reflection. It's really important for adult learners to reflect. And we need to challenge their voices that says that you're the learner, not the teacher. We need to listen to what they have to say, and be supportive. So build that reflection, build the structured moment of reflection where learners can voice challenges in a supportive way. So sometimes the best learning happens not in the classroom, but it's in the moment shared of sharing our struggles and discovery. Yeah. The third V is values, aligning learning with purpose. Once again, we're talking about self-awareness and joy, because joy comes from discovering your purpose. Adults don't learn for the sake of it, they've got a purpose. They've got a reason that they're enrolling. And it could be a personal reason or it could be a professional reason. But there is a reason. They don't study stuff they don't want to study. They don't learn just for the sake of it. We often need education to connect with their personal and professional purpose. So, Dr. Joseph's research highlights the aligning of life's choices with values that lead to greater happiness. Why would you study something? Why study law if you're interested in plants? So, and as adults, that's what we get to do. We get to study stuff that's going to be purposeful for us in our life or our evolution. So, and my research found this too, that adult learners thrive when they see education as meaningful. So, how do we foster this as educators? We help learners connect their real life studies to the real world perspective. We encourage goal setting that aligns with personal fulfillment and career aspirations and can have an impact in community. We integrate reflective exercises where learners identify how their education contributes to their bigger life purpose. We're not separating the different parts of our lives, and we're not asking the learners to do that either. We're actually integrating everything. And when the learners see why their learning matters, then their motivation soars. And with motivation, we usually get better success. So number 4 is vitals, the mind-body learning connection. Connection is managing that joy and managing change. Dr. Joseph emphasizes the mental and physical health are deeply entwined. I'll say that again, that mental and physical health are deeply entwined. And yet many adult learners will sacrifice their sleep, their nutrition, their self-care to meet study demands, thinking that this is the only way to succeed. But science is telling us otherwise. And my research supports this idea too, that learning should be joyful, and joyful is impossible without well-being. Educators and institutions, we need to recognize this. We need to encourage realistic study schedules and prioritize rest and balance. And I think we're doing that. I think there's been a change in how programs are delivered and the options that are available for older people, for adults who are learning. We need to teach about cognitive performance boosters such as hydration, movement, and mental breaks. Those 3 things, hydration, movement, and mental breaks, they help us learn. They're so simple and yet they're so essential, and they're stuff that we forget. I was recently doing a program, and it was a 3-day program, and it was 8 to 9 hours a day, and it was hard because they weren't giving us breaks. They they'd power everybody up by making us do, move our arms. But we didn't have time to sit and eat properly or prepare food, or, there wasn't a half-hour break at all throughout, a 9-hour day. And it was just as much as the quality of the program, it was a high quality program, but the delivery was really impacted the impactfulness of the learning because I didn't get a chance to switch off. That's my perception. And the science is agreeing with that. We need to have a break. It needs to be a realistic schedule. And shifting that narrative, I think there needs to be a shift in the narrative. And we talk about the well-being of the learner because the science is showing it is tough for adults to move back into the learning platform. And yet, what are we doing to help that? How are we helping the learner and their well-being so that they can be a good learner? A healthy learner is a successful learner. And number 5, vision. Vision, seeing the path as a path to the future. Once again, our future is all about managing change and being part of this community. Dr. Joseph's final V is vision, the ability to design an inspiring future. And this is critical for adult learners who are often transitioning careers or upskilling or redefining their identities through education. My research found that adult learners need community to support manage change effectively. And so what role do educators have in that? We can encourage learners to map out their future goals and to connect with learning to their desired outcome. Providing mentorship. I think that's such an essential role of adult educators. Providing them mentorship and networking opportunities that expand possibilities and cultivating that learning culture that celebrates progress, not just achievement. So a clear vision isn't just about career success. It's about creating a life that's meaningful and fulfilling. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that impact the family? So, in summary, adult learning is about learning to thrive, not just survive. Yeah. Dr. Joseph's 5 V's framework and my research on adult learners revealed the same truth, that thriving in education isn't just about good education techniques. It's about validation. It's about emotional expression. It's about purpose. It's about well-being, and it's about vision. Learning as an adult is a biopsychosocial process. It's a lot like the happiness research. And when we can integrate these principles into adult learning, we don't just create better learners. We create a more fulfilled, a more resilient, and more empowered individuals. So I'd love to know, what is your experience in the adult learning environment, either as a teacher or as a learner? Which of these 5 V's resonate with you? I'd love to know. Can you leave your comments below? And yeah, let me know what you think of this video, of this topic. Anyway, I shall be back next week. Thank you for joining the Educator's Edge. And if you've got any questions or comments or advice or guidance, please shoot me an email at lisa@theacademyoflearning.com.au, and I shall see you next week. Bye.